Good morning. I'm very thankful that you're listening to this morning. I wanted to respond to what the Father asked me to respond to. Now, typically I wouldn't even answer to these, but since so many have asked me these questions, they're clearly on your heart, so I felt I needed to address them. And I confirmed that the Father was very clear that I should speak the words that He's given me, and whenever He's asked me to give them. So I will do so. It is truly amazing to me when something is revealed as profound as it has been revealed to me, that it is so difficult, even in its most obvious state, for others to see it. And it's primarily because their ears are closed and their eyes are blind. They literally cannot see it because the programming is so deep. Now, I can speak of this because I've been there. I've been them, which is why I have compassion and why I don't get angry at the people that attack me. But I ask you this. In the beginning of the Word, the very first words uttered by the enemy, by the serpent in the garden, who is the God of this world, just as articulated in the Scriptures, that He rules the world because He could offer the world to Christ on the mountain during temptation. But the very first words that He utters in His biblical debut is that He offers Eve to eat of the fruit that would make them like God, knowing the difference between good or evil. Now, the enemy is called the father of lies, according to Scripture. He's literally the father of the lie. So being the father of the lie, the very first word that he speaks is a lie, being that if Eve ate of the fruit, she would know the difference between good or evil. So why is it that you, the pastors and the Pharisees of the apostate church that we have today, believe that you know the difference between good or evil? Or are you simply telling me that the enemy told the truth on his biblical debut, so you call the word a lie by agreeing to that very statement? You see, because it was also that the word says that of God spoke of Pharaoh and said, "Pharaoh is mine, for I raised him up for that very purpose, so I could show my wrath and my glory." So if you know the difference between good or evil, why is it that you call Pharaoh evil? Why? Because he enslaved and murdered millions of Jews? But yet you call him evil. But yet, according to the Scriptures, your God calls him mine. So you must understand that you really truly do not know the difference between good or evil. And that is told to you very perfectly within the very first pages of the word that you say that you believe. Now, I want to highlight something that I think is incredibly important with what I'm speaking right now, is that Christ would say that you honor Him with your lips, but inwardly and by your actions, you honor the doctrines of man. And He's very poignant to point out in the Scriptures that many believers will come to me and say, "Lord, Lord, did I not prophesy in your name? Did I not do wonders?" Now, who is He speaking of? He's speaking of believers, people that believe they know Him. And many of these people will say, "I prophesied in your name. I came doing all of these works. I have a church. I have a church of 50,000 members. And I did all of these things. And I did just as you said." Well, see, you didn't do just as He said, because you didn't understand what it was that He was saying. And He speaks to this by saying that you are worshiping the gods of Baal and sacrificing to them. Now, This is the scripture I'm speaking of. I'm not giving you anything more than what you say that you read. And now, the most important part of all this, it says in Matthew 7:15, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves, and you will recognize them by their fruits. Well, I see in your attacks your fruits, exhibiting all the natures of the enemy and none of that of Christ. So who is it that you worship? Because you cannot state that you believe in the words of Christ, yet do the absolute opposite of it. You hypocrites, that's who you are. Everything that comes from your mouth is hypocrisy. And if you would like me to come to your church, I will stand on the pulpit with your pastor, if he would be so brave. And I will discuss these things and debate them. Bring me the one who is wise. Where is the debater of the age? For the foolishness of God will bring low the wisdom of man." And even the things that you do not understand, the things that are so simple and right before your eyes, because Christ did not complicate things, and neither do I. I'm simply speaking to you exactly the words that he spoke. Now, when Christ came and approached the man that had many demons, and this man had so many demons and begged him to not destroy him. So the demons cried out to him, "Don't destroy me." And in his grace, he offered to put them into the swine. And the swine ran off a mountain and jumped off the mountain and drowned themselves. Now, the amazing part about that is that the reason why he would do that is because the swine were not important, but it was the person that had the demons that was important. And so he saw that it was more appropriate for one to be saved than it would be for the few thousand swine that cast themselves into the sea. Now, the most important part about that story is probably something that you've never really even thought about, you hypocrites. And that is the fact that everyone in the town, when they heard of this, begged Christ to leave them. Now, why would such a merciful and graceful thing be seen as something as awful? So much so that they begged him to leave their town. Because what he had done was he had woken a man and removed demons from him. These are the demons that you speak of. And those are the demons that you speak from when you attack and ignore the words of Christ. You fail to see that the demons within you is what attacks anyone that would have such a love on their lips, because you have no love. You have none. You do not know the Father, because if you knew the Father, you would know my words. Now I say this to you, not in anger. I say this to you in love, because I don't want to see you be deceived, and you fail to understand that you've already been deceived. You were born into the deception. The deception began long ago, even before Christ. And he introduced these words that I speak so we could have them today. The entire testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, as spoken of in Revelation, meaning that the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, meaning it is my prophecy and it is your prophecy. When you wake up to these lies, you will see this, and you will speak these things, and you will be persecuted by those in your own church. For he said, those that will kill you will see that they're doing the works of God. They are, because their God is not the Father in heaven, because the Father in heaven does not exhibit the behaviors that the enemy does. Only the enemy does, and you fail to see that he exalted himself on high, putting himself on the throne of God, saying, I am God. So I ask you, you find the works of the enemy in the Bible. Show me the evil works that he's done. Show me his murders, and show me his deception, and show me the awful things that he's conducted. You won't find it. But what you will find is one that calls himself God, destroying cities, towns, entire nations, wiping out everything in such a fit of rage that even the creeping and crawly things must die. Things even without a spirit, that there is such a bloodlust within him that he wants to wipe everything out, including you. And he's such a skilled tactician that you fail to see his works, that he has deceived you in the very things that you read, and you go into your churches today and teach them to others. The blood is on your hands, and I'm begging you to reach for the Father. Draw close to the Father, and he will draw close to you. Exhibit his attributes. I don't mind if you attack me, because it simply confirms that this is prophecy. Who is attacking you when you speak of Christ, or do they just turn and walk away? He promises persecution. He promises death. And in this, let me help you understand when you want to say that the blood sacrifice must happen because Jesus was blood sacrificed. Well, you see, you fail to even understand what the cross is. Yes, Christ was killed and hung on a cross, but there are two deaths as spoken of in Scripture, and the cross itself is spoken as rugged and covered in blood, and it is, because it's not one man that hangs on that cross, it's multiple, because the death that you must experience in this world as articulated by him, which before Christ went to the cross, he told you to pick up your cross and follow him. That meaning that your cross is dying to this world, and that you would be bludgeoned just like you're attempting to bludgeon me, and that it was the righteous of the world that bludgeoned him and beat him, because they didn't understand the very law that they espoused. They didn't understand the very text. They spoke the same words, but they didn't understand them, just like you don't understand the words when I speak them. It says in Matthew, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts is far from me, and in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." You need to cease teaching these commandments and these doctrines of evil, because you're working for the evil one. And I will come to your church, and I will speak to the parishioners within the pews. If you will have me, I will come. If you fear not the truth, then invite me. Because time is incredibly short, and you're running out.